It's a well-documented phenomenon that people will chase goals and milestones their whole life only to reach them and then realize that A, it hasn't brought them the fulfillment that they wanted, or they're now ready to move on to something new. It's like as humans, we have been programmed, whether it's by nature or by society, to keep moving forward onto the next thing. And something that seems like a lifelong goal can just, in an instant, be reduced to nothing as soon as you reach it. I'm sitting in an empty workshop now, looking back over the last 4 months, and as excited as I am to have handed over that reptile enclosure, the fulfillment and excitement of it are gone. Well, not entirely gone, but it certainly felt like going off a cliff in terms of that emotional connection. That build took me around 4 months to complete, and in less than 4 days, it's basically just gone out of my brain. Now I'm moving on to new things, and I can already feel that high that I got from that is basically gone. It's time for the next thing. I've got to work to something else. It's like one single thing will never bring you that enjoyment, but the chase and the drive constantly doing that will keep you entertained and happy. Talking about moving on, I have 2 very exciting things that I'm starting on this week. The first of which is a paid commission. And considering a few videos ago I was talking about I don't know where my next one's coming from, it's really cool that this one is basically locked in. There, let me explain. That is a pile of very, very old northern silky oak. And a friend of mine has asked me to make a tabletop out of it. He's gonna get someone else to do the steel legs. This should have been a relatively straightforward project. It's literally just milling and gluing boards. But these boards are so gnarly and twisted and crooked that it's actually gonna turn into something more. So right now I'm gonna be pulling this pile apart and going through each board, seeing what's involved, you know, how much is salvageable, and essentially there's gonna be a lot of waste as boards are milled down to nothing and then glued back up. But that's fine, I've checked with the client, he's happy with that. And then most likely I'll need to supplement it with some additional timber, which I'll buy, because I don't think I'm gonna get all of it out of this pile. But at this stage, all I'm doing is going through the timber, seeing what we can get out of it, and then from there, we'll let the client know what it's gonna cost to put it all together. If he agrees, which I think he's going to, then I can move on to that. The other thing I'm starting to work on, and I'm super excited about this, is this office space. So I need to clean everything out of this corner. That pile, as I mentioned, is going to get taken apart, so that'll get pulled out. All the rest of this is going, and I'm gonna start working on the framing for this. I'm hoping to get onto it this week, but now I've got to sort of manage my time between the project, the paid project, and the personal project. Although when I say personal project, the idea is that I believe that video of building this office is going to do well on YouTube. So it's like a long-term investment. As the ad revenue comes in, I think I should make some money from it. So it's not like it's just a personal project that's not part of the business. It is about making money from it, but it's not direct money into my account immediately. So this is going to be the first time this year where I'm trying to manage different projects with very different income streams. Those 2 boards are poplar gum, and they weigh like 1,000,000 kilos. And it's some of the densest wood I've ever worked with. I've had this timber sitting outside for the last couple months just to try and get it to off gas as much as possible. Particularly this timber here, this is going to be the one that's contacting the concrete. That's going to be the top and bottom plates. Those ones absolutely reek. I am back to cutting studs, and it feels really good to be doing some renovating type of work again. For those of you who are new to what I do, I've been on YouTube since 2015, 2016, and I originally started as a DIY renovation style channel. So doing this kind of thing was my everyday, every week content. First wall done. This one's going to be sitting out about here, and now I've got to do the other wall that's going to intersect it. This timber is so warped and twisted. It's 40 mil thick, so I've got 40 mil to bring down to, for this size table, I want to do 25, 20 at a push. Yeah, probably 20 is a bit on the thin side. Let's say 25. But because there's so much curve, you would think, oh, 25, you've got 20 mil to play with, or 15 mil to play with. I'm going to cut straight through that 15 mil. I think the first thing for me to do here is going to be all these boards need to get ripped down the middle, because there's so much twisting going on that I've got to rip them down the middle. Because some of them, like, I mean, this is a 250 mil wide board. So, you know, I could cut this into 3. The problem though is now convincing the client that this is what we've got to do, because these are boards that they've had in the family for forever. And now I'm going to say, before we can do anything, we've got to cut it all up. I'm sure he's going to be okay. We did sort of have this talk, but to say to him, they're going to be cut up thin. So you're going to have a table, not with wide boards, these are going to be thin boards. Yeah, need to have that conversation. Room. That is where I'm going to have to leave this project for now. The next step is to anchor the framing to the floor and walls, but I can't do that yet because I'm waiting on a particular tool to arrive. Let me explain. Some of you may remember a few months ago I did some work for Bosch promoting a new line of tools that they had. They've contacted me again with an end of financial year sale that they're putting on, and they've asked me to create some more content for them. As part of that, I'm going to showcase some of the tools, and one of those tools is a hammer drill. So I'm going to use that hammer drill for the video, which means I can't progress until I get it. The timing is kind of good though, because now it means I can get back onto the tabletop. I got an email back overnight from the client on this dining table. He's happy to continue. So I've upped the price a bit on the quote because obviously there's going to be more work involved in it. And I've also stipulated that I cannot account for how much extra material I might need until I've actually started cutting these boards up. I have shown him exactly where I'm going to get the timber from and what the cost is, and that there's no markup on it. So he knows that this is the per lineal meter, you know, this isn't a spot for me to make money on, and I'm being as upfront and honest with him as possible. So he knows that I'm not going to stitch him up here. But yeah, even with that increased price, he's still happy. And as I said to him, hopefully I won't need to put too much extra material in. Hopefully I can get it all out of the stack. Good morning everybody, it is a beautifully miserable day out there today, so I'm going to be spending the morning indoors. I'm working on an edit. This is the reptile enclosure, so I'm really trying to get this done within 2 weeks. It's a massive edit and it's taking a long time, but I really want to get it done so I can have a 2-week schedule. And then later this morning, I'm also recording the Shop Stop podcast. This is about halfway through the actual project itself, and I'm sitting around 15 minutes. This is just such a behemoth of a project. If I'm honest, I am just generally starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed with all the fingers I have in all the pies at the moment. And not in a, I can't do this or it's insurmountable kind of way. I'm not negative about it. I'm excited for the challenge and everything that brings. But there is just so much around me going on, and I'm having to work really hard to make sure I don't miss something. So I have the podcast, which I need to edit every 2 weeks and record. That's not a huge time sink, but the edit, that's generally my Saturday night taken care of. I then have my main channel, which I am constantly working towards, and I mean in the sense of editing. I then have my second channel, which is what you're watching now, and that's a weekly video. So I've got to come up with content, film content, record the content, and then edit it. I then have my shorts channel, which is generally something out of that week's worth of footage. So I have 2 videos a week on that, and these are criteria that I've set. So admittedly, I could just change it if I wanted to, but that's sort of where I want to go with it. And then on top of that, I have the actual work that I need to do. So the commission work. And that is a lot of different things to take care of in a week that comprises of 3 half days, which is why I work most evenings. And again, I'm not whinging. I love this, but there's a lot of things to do in that amount of time.